Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. And we have now uh, got Tropical Storm Melissa as of the 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time advisory. The National Hurricane Center began to issue advisories on now Tropical Storm Melissa. So we've got the 5 p.m. advisory, and I've got some rather bad news for some folks with this storm. So I'm going to try to start this live off with a little bit of good news. The Global Tropics Hazards Outlook was released today, and as you could see here for valid week 2 and week 3, no red in the Atlantic Basin. So no new tropical cyclone development is expected over the next 3 weeks. This is week 2 and week 3. We are getting all the way out to November 11th with no new tropical cyclone development. So I'm going to try to at least give a little bit of optimistic news. Now we get to talk about what I believe is going to turn into potentially a generational storm. Tropical Storm Melissa. I have a funny feeling right off before we even get into the advisories. I have a feeling we're never going to see Melissa again. If what I'm looking at truthfully verifies, and we're going to go over, I'm going to show it all to you here tonight. I have a feeling that this storm is going to be retired. All right. Taking a look at the most recent mesoscale view on satellite, I'm going to hit the auto refresh on this because I might get an extra 10 frames. These frames are 1 minute shots at a time, and as you can see, the sun is going down. We get a very clear and well-defined look of exactly where the center of surface circulation is located. It's right there in that circle. Can't miss it. All right. That being said, we can see that there is not a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity around the center of circulation. So this is expected to remain on the weak side and not necessarily organize as quickly as what we saw with some of the GFS's solutions. Now, I'm not going to rule out the opportunity for a center relocation, but it is unlikely now that the storm is beginning to slow down. So, it again, folks, what I'm looking at here tonight, and that I'm about ready to show you when we get into the models and all kind of like the deep dive data of this, it doesn't look good. And, for the folks that may just be tuning in for the first time, we will provide you with a much more comprehensive breakdown than a lot of other channels will. And in many parts of the professional meteorological community, they don't. I'm dumbfounded on some of the things that I've seen today as far as some of the discussions go from a couple professional media outlets. I'm mind blown. So let's go ahead and get through all of the particulars from the National Hurricane Center. Currently, Tropical Storm Melissa is located at 14.2 degrees north, 73.0 degrees west, about 305 miles south of the Port-au-Prince in Haiti. Maximum sustained winds are 50 miles an hour. It is currently moving west at 15 miles an hour. It has gained a little bit of forward speed from the previous advisory, but not a lot that really makes a tremendous difference. Though the longer it continues at a due west track, the further away from that turn towards Hispaniola becomes. Minimum central pressure of 1003 millibars. There are no changes with our watches and warnings with this advisory because the initial advisory on Melissa took place at the 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We currently have a hurricane watch in effect for the southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border with the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince. We also have a tropical storm watch in effect for Jamaica. I expect that tropical storm watch to then be upgraded to a hurricane watch in the future, and then a hurricane warning. So, the most important part of a National Hurricane Center public advisory is this right here: hazards affecting land. And there could be some catastrophic hazards affecting land. Wind. Hurricane conditions are possible within the watch area in Haiti beginning on Thursday. Tropical storm conditions could begin in Jamaica on Thursday or Friday. Rainfall. This has the potential to be absolutely catastrophic. Melissa will bring heavy rainfall to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, with totals of 5 to 10 inches expected through Friday. Additional heavy rainfall is possible beyond Friday, but uncertainty regarding the track and forward speed of Melissa reduces confidence in exact amounts. Areas of significant flash flooding and mudslides are possible. Over Aruba, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica, rainfall of 1 to 3 inches is expected through Friday. Flash and urban flooding will be possible across Puerto Rico through at least Friday. This has the potential to be really bad. Surf, stay out of the water. Especially Hispaniola, Jamaica, Cuba. It'll eventually spread out all across the Caribbean, so just stay out of the water, folks. This one has all of the hallmarks and all of the telltale signs of potentially becoming an absolute nightmare for somebody. As you could see with the forecast track, this is a 5-day forecast. Now, we all know that the impacts extend well outside of the cone of uncertainty. And as you could see, this storm is not going hardly anywhere for the next 5 days. Well, when we get into the long-term forecast, I'm going to show you that this only shows 5 days. It's not going anywhere after 5 days either. And that's a big, big problem, especially for rainfall. And folks in Jamaica, I'm not gonna play punches with you guys here. You need to start making preparations now for hurricane impacts and potential major hurricane impacts. You need to just start making the preps now. This is not looking good at all because there is going to be a considerable threat that is going to develop from this particular system. It seems likely, unless we get really, really close proximity to land and this thing sits in the same exact spot over and over, day after day after day, and it doesn't move. We may get some upwelling. We may get a little bit of land interaction. That may help to mitigate some of the intensities. But if it doesn't, Melissa's going to get retired. That's point blank. Looking at the spaghetti plots, as you can see, there is a great deal of uncertainty. So much so that we have a wide spread from the GFS being way out here, and I'm wondering if this is not an outlier. We'll find out. But if the GFS is the one that verifies, this would be the most optimal outcome that we could find. We really don't see the UK Met wants to slide this, keep this weak, and just jam this off into Central America. That could be, a decent outcome as well. The rest of them, absolutely not. The oceanic heat content, and I should have pulled that graphic up here, into parts of the Central and Western Caribbean are absolutely ridiculous. And if it finds a very conducive environment and a more conducive upper level environment in which to kind of churn in, this thing's going to go absolutely bonkers with intensity. And then you can try to bring some shear, but it's not really going to make much of a difference in the short term. Our discussion, we're going to read the whole thing because the threat level is that high. Satellite data indicate that Melissa is struggling in strong shear, which has been the theme for many systems over the deep tropics this year. The low-level center of the storm is exposed to the west of the main area of thunderstorms. Air Force hurricane hunters have been investigating the system this afternoon and found that the minimum pressure is around 1,003 millibars. Based on their observations, ASCAT passes, and Dorvac estimates, the initial intensity is held at 45 knots. Melissa's wind field is also quite asymmetric, with most of the tropical storm force winds occurring on the system's east side. Some of the outermost northern bands are approaching Hispaniola, and these heavy rains are expected to spread across that island during the next couple of days. Melissa is a little further south of the previous track, and it continues to move westward at about 13 knots. There has been no change to the track forecast scenario, which remains complicated. Over the next couple of days, there is fair confidence that Melissa should slow down and gradually turn to the northwest or north and approach Haiti and Jamaica late this week. The motion after that appears to be linked to how strong and vertically aligned the system gets, and that is when the models diverge. If Melissa organizes like the GFS predicts, it could turn northeastward into the weakness in the ridge and move over Hispaniola. Conversely, if Melissa remains sheared and lopsided, it will likely stall and eventually drift westward as a ridge builds north of it. Given the expected continued shear, the NHC track forecast leans towards the latter scenario. This prediction is a little left of the previous forecast and remains a blend of the consensus, a blend of the latest Google DeepMind ensemble mean and the corrected consensus aid HCCA and simple consensus TVCA. Although the ocean is very warm, the model suggests that vertical wind shear could persist over Melissa during the next few days. In addition, there is also some dry air in the storm's vicinity. Based on these mixed signals, the strengthening trend is expected to be slow. In fact, the new guidance supports nudging the short-term intensity down a bit. If Melissa remains over the Caribbean late this week and over the weekend, the upper-level winds could become more conducive for significant strengthening. Let me highlight that. For more significant strengthening. The NHC forecast is in best agreement with the HCCA model. Now, I did not pull these up. Give me just 1 second, folks. We are going to pull the HCCA model up. This is the HCCA trend on Melissa. As you can see, there is the forecast of this turning to the left, dipping down, awaiting the next frontal boundary, and then exiting due to its overall intensity. If we look at the intensity for the HCCA, it gets it up to category 2 here when we get out to day 6, day 7. That may have a little bit to do with the land interaction Remember what I said, close proximity to land could help mitigate some intensity. And as you could see, 96, 72 hours, it really didn't move that much. So upwelling of cooler waters could take place. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. It's got to sit over the same spot for quite a bit. And as you could see with the X's, this is further south and to the west of what was anticipated. So, not by, and it's not further west by much, but it is definitely further south than what was originally anticipated. The further in, the further south we go, the more distance it takes to be able to reach Hispaniola. That means it stays over open waters. I am expecting the GFS to make it maybe a potential adjustment in some of the upcoming deterministic runs. Now, if Melissa intensifies really, really quickly over the next, say, but in its current sheared state and its asymmetric state, I am leaning certainly more towards not that solution that would be provided by the GFS. Okay, now our intensity models, we get down here, as you could see, the National Hurricane Center has it as an 85 mile an hour Category 1 hurricane here in 5 days. If we looked at the consensus model, we note that it is still going to be lingering around at that time. That's a problem. I've got the wind speed probabilities here up, and my big thing is going to be watching for Haiti and really the Dominican Republic and getting into parts of Jamaica as well. Cuba could get involved in this depending on how far west. Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, you need to really, really keep a very close watch on this as well. Granted, it would, if it were to come and interact with land, it would potentially weaken the storm some prior to arrival. But I'm going to show you some intensity models that even if it were to weaken, it would be a considerably impactful storm. So we are going to, the reason I'm not going to go through all these just yet, I just want to make sure that we show it in the live. So this way, when we come back to these, we can tell the trends. Are those numbers going up? Are those numbers going down? And I am quite fearful of what we are going to see here in the upcoming, over the course of this upcoming week. Now, our key messages, we went through all of this with the hazards affecting land. So, please, folks, we'll just kind of give a quick rundown here. The flash flooding from the heavy rainfall, the potential wind from hurricane conditions and tropical storm conditions, and then the fact that there is a massive amount of track and intensity uncertainty within this forecast. And if this goes the wrong way, God help these people. I'm serious. Our rainfall forecast, as you could see, there are some areas here on the southern tip of the Dominican Republic here looking at 8 to 12 inches, but it's very difficult to see. I wish they used a little bit of a different scheme here. I'm going to draw this out. Anywhere within this purple line or north of that purple line has a lower confidence forecast. It's very difficult to see because the color scheme that they use is, not the easiest on the eyes. So that means, folks here in Jamaica, all of Hispaniola and the extreme eastern portions of Puerto Rico, getting into the Turks and Caicos, eastern Cuba, and the southeastern Bahamas. Right now, your rainfall forecast is of lower confidence. For the folks out here in the Virgin Islands and eastern Puerto Rico, you are looking at 2 to 4 inches due to the onshore flow of some of these potential rain bands. Now, the extreme southern side of Puerto Rico, you are also looking at 2 to 4 inches. Please make sure you check with your local National Weather Service office for the exact details on your forecast. If you do need that, I will pull them up for you here in this live. All right, getting out here to the University of Wisconsin. And we're taking a look at some of the particular data points here from Melissa. We've got our Dorvac technique, advanced Dorvac technique, looking at around 45 knots, minimum central pressure 999 millibars. But if we compare that with everything else, 38 knots, 32 knots, central pressure 1004. 36 knots, even though this is a little older, 1004, 1000, 1002, 36 knots. So it seems viable. The national or the hurricane hunters did find enough wind speed to keep it at 50 knots or 45 knots at 50 miles an hour. Here's the thing that has me the most concerned. When you look at the rapid intensification models, you don't see much for percentages. You see a 14% here in 72 hours of basically adding another 65 knots to the overall intensity. That would basically put it borderline, it'd be Cat 3, borderline Cat 4 at that point, if that were to verify. 14.8%. I'm not really, I don't expect it yet, but it could definitely occur throughout the life cycle of Melissa. Now, the one thing that I really, really need to highlight for folks here is this particular spot right here. This is, it says current MPI. What MPI stands for is maximum potential intensity. So, if the storm were to find the absolute perfect environmental conditions in which to intensify, it has enough available oceanic energy or oceanic heat content to achieve 163 knots in wind speed. 163 knots, we're getting into 185 plus miles an hour sustained. Gusts well above 200. Now, that's just that. All that's saying is that, again, if the storm was in perfect environmental conditions, it could potentially achieve that value. That value is, and I'm not going to joke when I say this, out of all the storms that we've talked about this year, Erin, Umberto, Imelda, Gabrielle, of the ones that have been significant here in the Atlantic Basin, 2 of them being a Category 5, being Umberto and Erin, none of them, and I repeat, none of them had the potential or the maximum potential intensity that you will find in the Caribbean. This has the potential to be even stronger than some of the storms that we saw earlier this season. And those were Category 5s. Now, we also see here that 15 knots of shear, and I do want to kind of highlight this. Hopefully, we'll come back to it here. I won't be able to put a crayon on it. But look at the precipitable water associated with this. This is going to potentially lead to some epic and catastrophic flooding. It's very possible. Like I said, this has all of the hallmarks of being a generational system. Now, here tonight, we're going to look at Earth Null, but please keep in mind that this is the GFS's solution. I'm not leaning towards the GFS's solution, but there's something that I do want to show, and that is getting up to around 6 miles above the ocean surface, getting in and around 35,000 feet in that range. What we see here with our trusty green circle located on the center of circulation, you do see a lot of this wind here coming in from the west. This is that shearing component that was mentioned in the discussion from the National Hurricane Center. You can also see some kind of evacuating of some of the air here just to the east of the storm. Well, that, if we come down to the mid-levels, we're going to drop down now about halfway to the ocean surface and arrive at around 18,000 feet, or 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. What we're looking at here, again, our trusty green circle is located on the center of circulation, and this is all approximate, folks. It's not like pinpoint. We see that this mid-level circulation is asymmetrically tilted to the east. This is what's been causing a lot of the shower and thunderstorm activity located off to the east of the center of circulation. These two need to get vertically aligned. What we would need to see, and I'm afraid we're going to see over the upcoming days as this begins to slow down and then be influenced and begin that turn. See, there's this little high pressure here. That high pressure is, and the weakness in the trough or the ridge is right there. I can zoom out just a little bit to show everybody here. All right. Let's get the winds back in. That'll help. So, you've got this trough frontal boundary moving in and moving like this. You have this high pressure ridge here, and you have a high pressure ridge here. These are the the three big components for what we see with Melissa. So, as I'm going to take this forward in time and keep an eye on those three particular features. We are now 24 hours in advance. We are now 48 hours in advance. And notice how quickly this jumps to the east. All right, there's two reasons. One, we'll get it to right about here, and we'll come back to the crayons. So this is tomorrow. This is 24 hours. We have this high pressure ridge here that is clockwise flow, and you see that it has a great deal of influence with a greater wind speed here on Melissa than what we do with this high pressure ridge. This high pressure ridge plus the intensity of the storm and this trough here, if it could feel it, would then try to make an exit like this. But unfortunately, Earth Null's not going to show what were to happen if it doesn't. So we're going to bring it to right about here. This is 10 a.m. Let's see, that's 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's Tuesday, so this would be Thursday morning. I think today's Tuesday. I don't know. I've lost track of days. I've been watching a storm all day long. So, again, this high pressure ridge has more influence in allowing the storm to turn. You could see the break in the ridge right here. That's the break. That's where the storm is going to try to go to. But keep in mind that things evolve, and they're going to continue to move along. Now, if the storm is weaker, the storm would then probably be located a little bit more over here. And if we zoom in real close, we're starting to notice that we're getting the winds out of the north associated with the high pressure that is located just to the left of our screen. This is what, quote unquote, stalls the storm. This is what it means when the steering currents collapse. Because if you do not have the intensity and you are not able to feel that stronger flow from that upper level, wind, and this high pressure here with its clockwise flow coming around will want to push the storm this way. The high pressure off to the west is with its clockwise flow is going to want to push the storm this way. It cancels out. As this high over here erodes and weakens a little bit, there is anticipated, as this high kind of moves off to the east just by a little bit, there is anticipated that this high pressure here becomes the feature that allows it to kind of turn to the west. And then we play the timing game with the next frontal boundary. When does the next window of opportunity come to play? So now we're going to look at the ensemble models. The Euro. This is our Euro legacy. As you can see here, we have nothing on there. We're running it forward. We're going to get it out to about 48 hours. You can see nothing really getting too into Hispaniola there. A camp that brings it to the north, but a camp that also continues it to the west. But notice, I'm out 120 hours and we really haven't moved that much. But that camp that went to the west and that camp that doesn't have much for land interactions, look what happens. Now, we don't see much as of right now for U.S. impacts. And that even includes folks down there in southern Florida. But, as you can see here with the Euro, a lot of them developed this into a major hurricane. A lot of them. If we compare that to the GEFS, now remember, the GFS, deterministic, wants to run this, and we'll look at that here in a moment, wants to run this over Hispaniola. That's what the deterministic run shows. Well, let's run the GEFS ensembles, and as you could see, if it intensifies quickly early, it may make it to Hispaniola. But look at the ones that didn't. And watch this. The further west it gets, the more intensity that we are likely looking at. And all of these pinks, that's below 950 millibars. Let's compare that with the Euro AI. We'll run this forward. And as you can see, the Euro AI does pull it up, get it over Hispaniola, but the ones that slip to the west, boom. The ones that do not have significant land proximity and don't make it to Hispaniola, this could be a problem. Now I'm going to show you DeepMind. DeepMind's been the most accurate model all season long. And in some cases, it's not even been close. Um, I'm just looking at this, I'm left speechless. That, folks, all those yellow or purple lines, you're looking at category 4, potentially category 5. Every one of those purple lines. You want me to make it even worse? And believe me, I'm not trying to hype this storm in any way, shape, or form. What I'm trying to do is show the potentials. And because the Google DeepMind has been the most accurate this year, you'll lean that direction. I hope it's wrong. I really do. Because this is crazy. This column here is our potential pressures for each of the ensemble members. If you remember when we showed this yesterday, compared to what we're showing you today, this has potential catastrophic generational storm written all over it. The maximum potential intensity of this is insane, folks. This is from the University of Miami, Rosenstiel School. There's your oceanic heat content. In some parts, it's completely off the chart. Completely off the chart. Okay, let's go a little further. And I'll explain how to read this. This is what's known as the depth of the 26 degree Celsius isotherm. That is 26 degrees Celsius is what is kind of the quote unquote threshold for tropical cyclone genesis and their intensification. Well, what we're doing is we're looking at how far down in the Caribbean we have to go before we hit the 26 degree isotherm. Before we get to the cooler waters, obviously, as we go further in depth. But how far down do we have to go before we start to see those 79, 80 degree waters instead of the 86 to 89 degree waters that we're looking at? Well, that's quite a distance, because as you can see here, when we get into anywhere in this orange, that's 100, not feet, meters. That's 100 meters, not feet. So it's going to take some time. You're going to really have to churn up that water. You're going to really have to get some winds to blow over that to have a significant impact in upwelling. And as you can see, if this thing slips west of Jamaica, I don't care where it goes, it's deeper. And not only that, it's intense. Look anywhere west of Jamaica. No, That's a terrible color. Hold on. We'll go straight white on it. Jamaica's right there. You get this storm at any point in time west of Jamaica with conducive environmental and upper level winds, this thing is going to go absolutely bonkers. Period. That's what has me so serious here tonight, honestly. All right, let's take a look at our deterministic runs. We have the Euro on the left, GFS on the right. These two graphics are representative of our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. We're looking at areas of spin in the atmosphere around 5,000 feet above the ocean surface, or approximately 1 mile. If you notice, right off the initiation, immediately off the initiation, we have the GFS showing a more vertically aligned system. Now, this was this morning's run. This is the 12Z. The Euro does not, has something a little bit more representative of what we see, to where a lot of the energy is offset to the eastern side of the area of low pressure. So let's run this forward and see what the different solutions are. As you can see, the GFS really focuses that energy quickly. The Euro, on the other hand, does not, and slips just a little bit further to the west. Now we're going to drop this at 48 hours. Now you would think that they look majorly similar, but remember back to what I showed you with the high pressure ridge over portions of the Gulf. At this point, this low pressure, it has missed. Melissa has missed the turn. Melissa's not going out on the Euro. Melissa still has this weakness with the ridge that can still try to squeeze up and out. But watch. It's not going to make it all the way. It's going to slow, and then it's going to wait on the next round to pick it up. But because it's so much further to the north compared to what we have with the Euro, there is a much quicker exit of this particular system. That eastward pull makes all the difference in the world, because it does not allow the high pressure over the Gulf of Mexico and the southeastern United States to exert as much influence on it as what it would be if it is still stuck in the Caribbean. Land interactions also keep it weak. But by this point in time, look at the difference. Look at where these are located. Now, also, look at the Euro. The Euro wants to show potentially a southwestern track that is in response to the high pressure. As that high is beginning to move out and then getting replaced by a low, and you can see that energy coming in. We're at day 6. I'll just go ahead and show it. You've got the GFS out this way, high pressure here, low coming in behind it. All right. You have here on the Euro, the high has broken down because you have a short wave trough that is trying to move in along this boundary line right there. That knocks this high back and creates that weakness. So now we're going to run this forward. And I promise, folks, I will get to any questions here momentarily. I'm trying to download my brain to everybody at this moment. So as we could see, run this over. The Euro brings us right over Jamaica, goes right through portions of eastern Cuba. Inflow side would be there on Hispaniola, right through the southeastern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. and then eventually moves out, but not before it decided to swing on by and say hi to our friends in Bermuda. So, again, the further west this thing goes, the worse that we could see this. Now, if it stays due south of Jamaica, we would definitely be looking at direct impacts for Jamaica. But depending on how close it would be, would also depend upon what we would have as far as wind speeds are concerned. But keep in mind, look how much this storm does not move on the Euro. All right, high pressure on one side, high pressure on the other side, knocking out, canceling each other out, steering currents, kind of moving around here and there and everywhere, and it's still there. Let's take a look at our humidity. And this is why. This is all going to tie together here very shortly. Euro on the left, GFS on the right. We have our 500 millibar graphics on the top and our 700 millibar graphics on the bottom. This is looking for that dry air and that moist air in between approximately 10,000 and 18,000 feet above the ocean surface. Let's run these forward. As you can see, there is a considerable amount of moisture. A considerable. The GFS, if it gets off into the southwestern Atlantic, that's going to shift a lot of the rainfall over towards Hispaniola. Getting into a lot of that inflow would then impact our friends here in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, British American, it really doesn't matter. Getting into the northeastern or the northern part of the leewards as well. The Euro, on the other hand, look at this moisture. This is insane, folks. Can we buy a break? There's some of that dry air there, but it's there. But if you don't have the shear, and this thing is able to get an internal eye wall, a full closed eye wall developed over that type of water, sigh, folks. Really, you could just see the moisture. That's a big time problem. Now, some of that dry air could help impact if it gets too far west. Keep in mind, we've got a lot of dry air over the Gulf, and we could end up with quite a bit of dry air as the counterclockwise circulation begins to become more established. If you've got the low here, you've got that counterclockwise flow that is going to be grabbing some of this dry air and trying to pull it in on the southern side. The problem is that if you have an entire inner core and you're lacking the shear component needed to kind of puncture the core, the only way you're going to get that in there into the core of the system is by natural entrainment. It's going to be very difficult to do if you've got a solid inner core on this. Let's take a look at the rainfall. I'm just going to run this forward, and I'm going to let the numbers speak for themselves. I'm not even going to say anything. That's 5 days. That's 10 days. I don't care what solution that this rolls. This is considerable rainfall and the potential for absolute catastrophic flash flooding. This is just rainfall. We're not talking about, this is just one factor of the storm. Freshwater rainfall. We're not talking about storm surge. We're not talking about wind. This is just rain. It does not matter which solution. If it goes quickly and it develops early and it goes over Hispaniola, where the GFS is concerned, you get a great amount of rain, especially into the Dominican side of Hispaniola, being on that onshore flow side. We're looking at rainfall amounts, anything in purple is 14 inches plus. You start getting into these real light purples, and you're looking at 20, 24, 30 inches. Look at the euro. That's Jamaica. I know you can't see it very well. I mean, I don't even know what color, for God's sakes, we could use. Let's try a solid black and see if that does anything. Right there. That's Jamaica. Even, you're looking at the peninsula here of Haiti. You're looking at eastern Cuba getting into the Turks and Caicos. Folks, it's not a joke. And here, what we do, we don't care where you live. We don't want to see anybody perish. What I'm looking at here, I hope we don't end up with a great loss of life over the upcoming days. I really do. Our wind shear models, again, Euro on the left, GFS on the right. If we run this forward, we will note that there still remains a decent amount of shear. The GFS wants to kind of give it its own environment and everything, which again, I'm not sold on that. The Euro still wants to have a little bit of that moderate shear, but then it starts to really intensify. And then it does its southwestward motion. And then some of the shear increases again, but you're talking about 941, 942 millibars moving into parts of Jamaica. That's a major. Look, comes off Jamaica, 950. Goes through the channel, re-intensifies, 934. Clips eastern Cuba, and remains an absolute monster throughout the forecast period. Once it gets up, once it achieves that strong inner core, Mother Nature will play hell breaking that down in the Caribbean. The waters are just too warm. They're untapped. We haven't had anything down there this year. Nothing. We've had a great environment down there. But if you have no seeds, if you have nothing to take advantage of the fuel that is available, you have no fire. All you need is a spark. All right. Now, I'm going to check our questions here. Yes, Miss Martha, I am. I'm really trying to keep folks safe. I really, really do not want to see any fatalities with this, but looking at the intensity, looking at the rainfall, looking at the duration, I am fearful that we are going to have loss of life with this. I really am. And again, I don't care where you live. I don't care what country you're in. I don't care what religion, what political party. That makes no difference to me. Mother Nature doesn't care. Mother Nature does not care. We are all treated and discriminated against equally in the eyes of Mother Nature when she feels that it is time to do so. Period. The best thing you could do is stay prepared. Stay weather aware and Start making preparations, especially in the areas to where we have watches. It's all I ask. Stay safe. That's it. That's why we spend, I'm 55 minutes into this live stream, and I'm just now getting to the MJO. And we very well might start increasing our live stream frequencies. We always have a post live stream conference call with the team. That's going to be the number one discussion tonight. When, how much, and when do we go? Because schedule wise, it'll be a little difficult for me in the mornings, but evening and nightlies, oh, I got you. I got you. Like, I guarantee we're going to be doing at least two. Guaranteed. And again, if folks only knew what was going on behind the scenes for us right now, please stay safe. If you guys only knew, you would look at me and be like, why are you even doing these? Take care of what you have to take care of. All life is precious. It's the only thing that we can't replace. That and time. You can't get time back either. Now's the time to prepare if you are in those watch areas. All right, let me get over here to, let's see. No, William, there's too much of a powerful frontal boundary that is coming in. We'll go back to the humidity models. Take a look, watch up here, even on both models. It really doesn't matter. You can pick either one. Keep an eye on the top two graphics, and you will see the reinforcing shots of our dry air, one right after another. The chances of this becoming any type of U.S. threat is extraordinarily low. And even for the eastern seaboard, no. There could be the development of another low pressure area, as seen here by the Euro, if we run that forward. A little bit of a coastal low right there, and then another one right there. So, maybe some squally weather associated with non-tropical interests. But as far as Melissa is concerned, right now, we don't have much of any U.S. threat at all. So that is at least some good news for U.S. interests. But for other folks that are out there in the Caribbean, and we were so close to getting out of this season. We were so close to getting out of this season unscathed. So close. And damn. All right. Yes, we will. We're as far as U.S. interest goes. Look, folks. If there was any U.S. threat, it's going to be way, way, way later on down the road. We're still going to be talking about this storm at this time next week. And the chances of it being still located in the Caribbean are better than not. So we're going to be talking about this one for a while. I'm afraid. I just don't see this thing getting out. I don't. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm afraid I'm not. And that's the part that gets me. I'm looking at this data, looking at the current sheared structure of the storm, you're running out of time to get the GFS solution to be able to verify. You're running out of time. You need this thing to start kicking. My apologies. I mean, I'm very concerned about this system. I really am. And there you go, James. There was my first slip of the season. I'm very concerned about this system. Very. All right, our MJO Phase 3 rotating over. Phase 4, Phase 5. This will at least leave a suppressive phase over the basin that is not going to allow or help to enhance any further tropical cyclone development. But we've already got a tropical cyclone, so having the environment that you would expect to help eliminate storms, well, the storm is already there and it is over an untapped fuel source. So do not expect the MJO suppressive phase to have any impact on Melissa. None whatsoever. That's unfortunate. Timing was off just by about a week. All right, jumping out into the Eastern Pacific. We do have an area highlighted by the National Hurricane Center. This currently has a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. I didn't even go out this far. I didn't even switch the graphics over for this. No threat to land. That was the Euro. We'll do the GFS. No threat to land. We will go to the Euro AI. No threat to land. If you really want to get technical, we'll go over here to DeepMind. You want to play Where's Waldo? Maybe something. But again, no threat to land. Jumping out to the Western Pacific, Feng Sheng. This thing just will not go away, is being a kind of a thorn in the side. And we've got all types of areas of invest out there as the enhanced phase of the MJO really starts to take hold in this part of the world. We've got Invest 97W. We have Invest 92A. A is representative of the Arabian Sea. 95S is representative of the southern Indian Ocean. So where the equator is, that's the cutoff line. And then Tropical Cyclone Chang'e. If we take a look at Feng Sheng, this thing is continuing to slowly weaken. Has a very broad and wide tropical storm force wind field, unfortunately impacting portions of China here, and they've had enough. I'm not going to lie to you, they've had totally way too many. They've been absolutely crushed this year. And now getting down and headed towards central portions of Vietnam, and inland degrading, still potentially causing a great amount of rain. Getting down here to Chang'e, we're still close. Hasn't made that Category 1 hurricane status just yet. Real close, running that 60 knots. Not expected, not forecast to get there, but again, Mother Nature doesn't care. She may be able to bump it up an extra 5 knots. That's definitely not out of the question. And then continuing towards eastern portions of Africa as weakening on the way, but that remnant moisture will still remain with it. So we could see some impacts here into eastern portions of Africa, bringing some rain. I don't know whether it's needed or not. I have not checked on the drought or rainfall amounts down there into that part of Africa. A bit more concentrated on our portion of the basin. Speaking of which, tied to our Facebook page, if you go to the International Meteorology Database, even if you push that up into Google, you will see this. It will come up. I don't know where. We don't. All we do is just Kylie put together all these links, and we use these because these links give us access to the official resources, meteorological resources of these other countries. So I cannot stress this enough, folks. If you've got friends, family, people you follow on social media, people that you talk to, it's a globalized world nowadays to where you have easy connection with, all parts of the world. Please have them be weather aware of this. And if you guys need information on a specific area, you got Haiti, you got Jamaica, you've got the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico obviously is run by the the National Weather Service office. Right here, this is Puerto Rico. As you can see, we've been monitoring it. So please, folks, stay weather aware. If you are in the watch area, make immediate preparations. Just make preparations. Do not wait. Because if you wait, it might be too late. And time is something that you cannot get back, ever. All right, everybody. I am going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. I am not going to come back live tonight at 11. I am going to have a discussion with the team here following this live, and we will post any relevant information as far as that is concerned. So we're definitely going to be here for everybody. I thank everybody for participating and attending. Again, stay safe, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, definitely. Have a great night, everybody. Bye for now.